What is going on, guys? Poketism here, back with another Pokemon investor video. If you like the content, consider dropping a like, maybe even a comment saying SpaghettiOs, and a subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Today, we are going to talk about 5 mistakes new Pokemon investors make in 2026. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So mistake number 1 is buying everything that is hyped, aka also known as buying the top. So I think a perfect example here is going to be the Mega Charizard X EX from Phantasmal Flames, which just dropped at November. So it's been out now for about 5 months. And if we take a look here, we started out of the gate right at about $780, dropped all the way down to about $477. And now we've been shooting right back up to the all-time highs when this set released. So, something I can add to this common mistake here is not understanding what's going on in the market. So I think a huge factor, not only that this is an amazing card with the entire evolution line of Charizard. So we got Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard here. It's a fantastic card. It's a beautiful card. And I can see the demand is going crazy for this. But we have to keep a few things in mind. We are only 5 months into its print cycle. And at the same time, there's a little bit of a shortage of the Phantasmal Flames booster boxes. And I have no doubt as time goes on that this product is going to be continued to be pumped in the print cycle all the way until it rotates out, just because of how high of a demand this card is. So if we take a look here, volume really shot up in purchases down when it got here to about $475 a card. So anywhere between $400 and $500 range. This is right before the new year. So we see a huge volume spike here. And then as we're slowly shooting back up, and we're seeing the volume start to slowly decrease. So right now, there are a handful of people who are buying this card towards the top of its range. Now, I understand that there's concerns about reprints for the booster boxes. I understand that this is a very hyped card, but I have been in this situation before, and I have been burned. And when you buy this really cool card right at the top, the downside risk is so much higher than the upside potential, at least in the short term. So when you are considering buying these singles, try to use the tools available to you, such as just being involved with the community, understanding the print cycles, using notification services or following notification services like PokeNotify, not sponsored, by the way. They will basically post on their Instagram when things are going to be dropped or restocked in the next print waves. So in those opportunities, when those big print waves come out, you can keep an eye on the price of the chase cards that you're looking for, and maybe potentially find yourself a better entry. A lot of people tend to want these chase cards right out of the gate, but if you can just be patient for about a month or so, there's this happens like clockwork with chase cards. Let a set be out for a couple months, and it'll get down and settle down at a more reasonable price. And if the market thinks that it is cheap, then you will notice that volume spike. When that volume spike happens, then you kind of have an idea that, hey, this may not be too bad of an entry point to get this card. So if we were to buy right here, right now, and then next week, Pokemon Company announces a huge booster box restock on the Pokemon Center, or we get a Pokemon Center drop with more booster boxes of Phantasmal Flames, then the price is going to drop of the booster boxes, the chase is going to drop, and you can find a better entry point. Usually where I have found most success in picking up singles that I want to hold on to or get graded is usually when something has been in the print cycle for about a year. So if we were to wait on this Charizard here and come back, uh, November of this year and take a look at the prices, I think we have enough data and enough information, and potentially other sets that have came out since Phantasmal Flames that may be the center spotlight, where there will be opportunities to get those chase cards at a cheaper value. So mistake number 2 that we're going to talk about is exposing yourself to too many products. So there are a lot of banger sets in Pokemon, and then there are a lot of they're okay sets. But at the end of the day, you could buy one of every Elite Trainer box or one of every Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box and still do well. So I pulled up Scarlet and Violet Elite Trainer box here from the base set of Scarlet and Violet. And if we take a look, about a year ago, it was about $64 in the Elite Trainer box, and it's worked its way up to about $100 in the Elite Trainer box. 54% growth or 56% growth in a year. Not bad at all. You're still beating the stock market. However, if you were to allocate some of these funds maybe towards Surging Sparks Elite Trainer boxes in Scarlet and Violet, especially when we were getting them pumped into Costco and such. We know that Surging Sparks is a very popular set. We know that Prismatic Evolutions is an extremely popular set. If your sole purpose is to profit as much as possible and spend your dollars efficiently, it's important to pay attention to what the community is really rallying behind. Now, if they're really rallying behind a specific set, you also need to wait for opportunities where the spotlight is not focused on those sets. For example, Prismatic Evolutions. There was a time where Prismatic Evolutions got down to $90 a booster bundle, towards maybe a few months after the print cycle started. There was a big scare. A bunch of scalpers bought a ton of boxes, felt like they couldn't sell them. They started offloading them because most of them they would get them from distributors or at MSRP. So if they could offload them at $80, $90 a booster bundle, or Elite Trainer box, then they're still profiting. And then that leaves open a great opportunity for you to solidify a solid position in a fantastic set. Now, this is something that I've continually beat, or a dead horse that I've continually beaten here, is that Prismatic is one of the best sets that you can, one of the best modern sets that you could really position yourself in. And my personal view in the Scarlet and Violet era is that the only 2 sets that I really want to focus a majority of my attention on are Destined Rivals and Prismatic Evolutions. Now, I did pick up some ETBs of some other products, and they've just been sitting at the same price for 3 to 4 months and not doing too much because the overall demand for those products is not very high, which also means they aren't going to be very liquid. So it is important to pay attention to what the community deems a fantastic set and maybe allocate a majority of your funds to those sets. Because as time goes on and those sets rotate out and are not going to be as available anymore, then you're going to look for those opportunities where, maybe it dropped 10, 15% on a Prismatic bundle. You're like, okay, this is a decent dip. I can definitely get in and build my position here. Now, if you went super hard into Scarlet and Violet base and you went super hard, same amount of money in Prismatic Evolutions, you would be doing a lot better just off of the Prismatic Evolutions ETBs than the Scarlet and Violet, because Scarlet and Violet, the community consensus is it's a pretty set. And I think based off of looking at this 1 year chart here, that instead of putting $100 into Scarlet and Violet base, people would rather put $100 into Ascended Heroes Elite Trainer boxes, just because the community consensus on that Elite Trainer box is that it's one of the best Elite Trainer boxes of all time, one of the best specialty sets of all time. You don't hear that about Scarlet and Violet. So if your sole purpose is to position yourself well for maximum returns, you got to pay attention to what the community likes. And at the end of the day, Pokemon Company is also doing that, which means they're going to be pumping that product into the market, and eventually prices are going to level out a bit, or they're going to correct where you can really solidify a solid entry point. Okay, so now mistake number 3, which I have fell a victim to a few times now, is opening product instead of holding. So a little anecdote here. When Prismatic first dropped, I was trying to catch every Target restock that I could to get Elite Trainer boxes, and I managed to get a good amount at MSRP. And I had the mindset of, oh, I didn't have to pay market for these, so maybe I'll open a couple and then I'll keep the rest sealed. Big mistake, especially with Prismatic Evolutions. So this set is called Traumatic Delusions for a reason, because the hit rates are extremely hard to pull those Umbreons, and then on top of that, it's extremely hard to grade them in PSA 10. However, I opened up a couple ETBs that I managed to get at MSRP, and one of them I pulled the Jolteon SIR, and the other one I pulled the Flareon SIR. But that doesn't happen. That does not always happen. That was extremely lucky. And if you were in my shoes at the same time, you'd be like, dang, like this is awesome. We're getting hits after hits, and you want to chase that feeling. So, you see your sealed collection sitting there in the corner, and you're like, Schrodinger's, Umbreon's in there for sure. I won't know until I open it. And I've seen this happen way too many times where people just get impatient with waiting, and they're like, you know what, let's just open up some. And once they start opening up one and they get nothing, then it cascades. And before you know it, maybe you ended up with an SIR that you didn't really want. It wasn't the big chase card. And then now you're down all the money that you put into this product. So try to avoid opening your sealed. A good way to do it is, if you have a sealed collection that you don't want to display, put it in a tub, forget about it, put some heavy stuff on top of the tub so you're not tempted to open it up. Maybe if your family has extra storage, see if they can let you store your boxes in a garage or something. So that way the temptation is not there. I know we all want those big chase cards. We all want to profit off of Pokemon, but opening packs is not the way you profit. I'm telling you right now from experience. I managed to get lucky with those Prismatic Evolutions. When Phantasmal Flames first came out, I bought 2 booster boxes of Phantasmal Flames, and I ended up opening them both. And I'll tell you what, I'm regretting it right now seeing the prices of them. And that's a mistake that has really solidified in my head, and, I think it's okay to open up product, right? Especially if you've been in the space for a while and you've profited a lot on other sets that you've sold, and you're rotating your money into newer product with your profits and such. I think it's okay to crack something open every once in a while. But when you're investing in Pokemon, it's very important that you have an entry and exit plan. And if you deviate from that exit or that entry and exit plan, and you start cracking open your product, then you're going to be very disappointed at the end of the day. Most of the time, you're going to be very disappointed. You might get lucky and get that one hit. And I'm sure when you see on social media of everybody talking about all these great hits that they got, and you get this perception that it's going to be easy, or that the world revolves around you, and that you are going to manage to hit that one chase just out of pure luck. It happens, but it doesn't always happen. So if you are an investor and not a collector, just keep it sealed and wait 6 months, wait a year, and you will already see returns. This is how Pokemon has worked for years and years and years. And, just especially if you get it at MSRP, don't use that as an excuse that, oh, let's crack it. That's going to be your maximum opportunity to make returns. if you got a $59.99 prismatic ETB at Target and you just held it for a year, you would be at a $200 box. So $60 to a $200 box, that's a significant amount of money. So just keep your product sealed. Trust me, you won't regret it. Now, I want to bring up another mistake that I made so you can learn from my mistakes. But mistake number 4 here is going to be buying modern singles at peak prices. So there was a little bit of a wave back in September where the market was going a little bit crazy. And me being a big Gardevoir fan, I wanted to buy and grade a very clean Gardevoir. And when I saw this huge run up in the market, I thought that since Paldean Fates was going to be rotating out soon, that this was the run that I wanted to take advantage of, or not take advantage of, rather. But I let the FOMO get to me, and I bought the Gardevoir right near the top here in September. And I did manage to grade it and get a 10, but at the end of the day, if I just waited for a little bit of cooling off and understanding that we weren't going to be rotating out of Paldean Fates until April, that there most likely was going to be a correction. And so if I was just a little bit more patient, instead of buying here at the top, and I just wait a little bit, I could have got a copy for about, a little over $100 versus, anywhere from $130 to $170. So, as I've preached in my previous videos, you want to be the person selling the card in this instance, not the person buying the card. Do not buy into the FOMO waves. I am a FOMO-phobic person, so I shouldn't be buying into these hypes. But at the end of the day, we're all human. We all don't want to miss out on the opportunity to be successful or to get something that is going to be very rare or sought after in the future. Now, if you have the mindset of, I'm not planning on selling this anytime soon, then sure, then you could argue that this buy that I made here isn't going to matter when Paldean Fates rotates out, because over time, it's going to continue to grow. But my main gripe with this is that money could have been allocated a little bit better, right? Instead of buying it twice the price as it was, a couple months before the run up, being down at $72 and then running up to $142, literally doubled. Those are your opportunities to sell into the wave. You don't want to be buying into these waves. And I see it happen all too often. I mean, look at this liquidity spike here, or this volume spike. 67 sold during August 25th and August 31st. And then the volume drastically slowed down, and then people started undercutting each other to try to still profit off of this run up here. And so the volume slows down, people undercut, and it keeps dropping. So, try to be patient and wait if you're going to be buying singles, for the singles to cool off a bit. You aren't going to miss out. I promise you. I've seen this time and time again, and I still made the mistake. So the patience is key. Maybe focus on something where there's better opportunities in the market, cards that aren't being as appreciated as the ones that are on tears. And at the end of the day, you will be a lot happier. So for number 5 here, we are going to talk about ignoring liquidity. So what I mean by this is easily sold items versus niche items. So check this out here. We have a legendary battle deck XY Steam Siege. So if you didn't know too much about Pokemon, and this is all kind of new to you, battle decks are not quite typically sought after in the Pokemon community or the Pokemon investing community, just because they usually don't contain packs and they're pre-built decks. So if you saw this or another battle deck sitting on the shelf and you're like, you know what, I'm going to buy this and hold on to it and hope that I can sell it in the future, that's where I would recommend that you do a little bit of research. So, for example, this box has been out for a long time. This is an XY era box, and if you notice here, like each one of these volume spikes is one sale. And if we go back a year, $47, $48, and now we're up to $63. So that's 32% gains in in about a 1 year period. But at the same time, we have 7 sold in a year. So a lot of these are just going to be sitting for a while. And the same goes for products that, for example, like figure collections or the Charizard box that has a big old Charizard in it. At the end of the day, people are looking for packs. Packs are where the hits are. That's where the money is. And, these promo cards in the battle decks aren't typically sought after very much. So if you are to buy something and invest your hard-earned money into some product, I recommend investing or doing your research and looking into how much loose packs are worth, and then the premium of the sealed box. So since this doesn't have any loose packs in it and it's just pre-made battle decks, then it's safe to say that your returns on this are going to be pretty minimal compared to something like a elite trainer box, a 3-pack blister, a booster box. Those are all very liquid items. If you are sitting on a bunch of random niche items that don't have a lot of sell volume, then when you try to sell them, they're going to be sitting in your marketplace forever unless you're listing them significantly below market. And then at the end of the day, that cuts into your returns. So if you're ever wondering what is a good product to put my money into, the only ones that I would consider personally are going to be ultra premium collections, special collections, booster bundles, elite trainer boxes, and booster boxes themselves. Because typically, from good sets, those items are very liquid, and you should have no problem selling them. So make sure you avoid buying these niche items like battle decks, because unless you're planning on ripping them open and playing with them, you're going to be sitting on them for a long, long time. All right. So if you have any questions or comments about what I talked about today, or if there are any mistakes that you would like to include in the comments, definitely drop them below. And thank you for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one. Oh, peace.